Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm so glad that we are all able to be here today. You know, every week I am in awe that we can come together as one family. Some of us here in person, some of us via live stream, hi Zoomers, and even some in the future, once this service is posted on our website, huuc.net. It's those little things in life that remind us just how precious simply being together truly is. So welcome. Welcome everyone to Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church. We are a Unitarian Universalist community that honors the diversity that makes each of us who we are as we seek our own spiritual path, as well as our role in making this world a better place for all. For anyone who doesn't already know me, my name is Steph Tacy, and I've been a member of this church family for over 14 years. I love this community and call it home. And as in any home, there's always so much going on, here and off-site. So be sure to check out the back side of your order of service, list of events that are coming up. If there is anyone visiting with us for the first time, I offer you a special welcome. Please stay after this service as we gather for refreshments and friendship. Our board greeter today is Gary Wilson. They'll be happy to talk to you and even give you a tour if you're interested. Before I continue, I just want to remind everyone to use airplane mode or silence or turn off your electronic devices. The only sounds we want to hear for the next hour or so are the voices of adults, children, babies, as well as live music. As most of you are aware, Reverend Bill is on vacation this month. Today, we'll hear from Les Tacy, a member of Heritage. And having the same last name is no coincidence, as he also happens to be my husband. Now, you're used to thinking of Les in musical terms as the music director here, which he was for around 9 years. He retired from that role back in 2023, which is when the wonderful Sherry McCamley took over the role. This morning, Les will share another of his many talents as he guides us through his contemplation of living a simpler life in the midst of a complex world. While doing research for this service, it felt like there were hundreds of perspectives out there on this one topic. It was so easy for this seemingly simple subject to become complicated. How's that for a fun twist? So Les simplified the tack he chose for his message. His perspective focuses on wanting what you have and the benefits we can each attain from that concept. So for me, in addition to agreeing with so much of it myself, my personal simple tends to also try to include some wisdom from Native American teachings. So I'd like to start the service with this excerpt from the book, Braiding Sweetgrass. My hope is that you'll also see how it falls in line with Les's message and adds to the overall conversation. The honorable harvest. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you, so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission before taking. Abide by the answer. Never take the first. Never take the last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half. Leave some for others. harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. Straightforward, simple words to help us open our minds and hearts. Come, let us worship together. Thanks, Laura. And now please stand as you are willing and able as we sing our opening hymn, number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life. The words will appear on the wall above me. Please remain standing as we offer our covenant to each other. By this covenant, we affirm that love is the spirit of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve mankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
The Gift of Nothing by Patrick MacDonald. It was a special day, and Mooch wanted to give his best friend Earl a gift. But what to get him? He had a bowl, he had a bed, he had a chewy toy, he had it all. Mooch thought and thought, what do you get someone who has everything? Nothing. He would give Earl the gift of nothing. But in this world filled with so many somethings, where could he find nothing? Mooch often heard Frank say there was nothing on TV. But as far as Mooch could tell, there was always something on TV. Mooch often heard Dozy and her friends say there was nothing to do. But as far as Mitch could tell, everybody was always doing something. Millie came home from the store and said there was nothing to buy. So Mooch went shopping. Mooch looked up and down every aisle. He found many, many, many somethings. The latest this, the newest that, but as far as he could tell, nothing was not for sale. So Mooch went home and sat on his pillow and just stayed still as cats often do. And not looking for it, he found nothing. So he went and got a box and put nothing in it. Then Mooch thought, maybe Earl deserves more than this. So he got a bigger box. Now that's plenty of nothing. For me, said Earl. Mooch, you didn't have to give me anything. Who told him? Thought Mooch. There's nothing here, said Earl. Yes, said Mooch, nothing. But me and you. So Mooch and Earl just stayed still and enjoyed nothing and everything. The end. Thank you for watching. Come visit us at catherineome.com.
Good morning. I'm Jack Wolszewski and I'm 12 years old.
I'm Kate Wolszewski and I'm 10 years old.
And we're here to talk about sharing our abundance. In case you're new to our church, one cool thing about our offering every week is that it doesn't go to the church. 100% of our offering goes to a nonprofit that connects with our message for the day or timely event. Today, our recipient is Interparish Ministries, or IPM. Our message today is about simplicity. When it comes to food, I'm a boy of simple tastes. One of my favorite foods in the whole world is plain bread. A few weeks ago, my sister brought a stuffed animal seed turtle to church for sharing our abundance. So to support today's message, I brought a stuffed baguette. Baguettes are simply delicious.
That's where IPM comes in. By providing foods to thousands of our Cincinnati neighbors in need through their food pantry and other food relief programs. IPM is simply one of the most effective charities in our community for helping people. For people with simple tastes like Jack, they provide plenty of bread and other staples. And for people with more refined tastes like me, they also provide full meals and tons of fresh fruits and vegetables. This is an avocado I named Juan Pablo.
For the record, I do love fresh fruits. Vegetables, not so much.
We hope you will donate today to help IPM provide all sorts of food to people in Cincinnati. If you're on Zoom, the donation link is in the chat.
Sing along with this song if you know it. So I'm stuck here watching TV. I don't have digital. I don't have diddly squat. It's not having what you want. It's wanting what you've got. I'm gonna soak up the sun. I'm gonna tell everyone to lighten up. I'm gonna tell them that I got no one to blame. For every time I feel lame, I'm looking up. I'm gonna soak up the sun. buy the things it takes to buy me some of your love. Every time I turn around, I'm looking up, you're looking down. Maybe something's wrong with you that makes you act the way you do. I'm gonna soak up the sun. I'm gonna tell everyone to lighten up. I'm gonna tell them that I got no one to blame. And every time I feel lame, I'm looking up. I'm gonna soak up the sun while it's still free. I'm gonna soak up the sun before it goes out on me. I'm gonna soak up the sun.
Thank you for your generosity.
I wish I could skate up here. Thank you, Sherry. That was wonderful, and I'm glad we sang along with you. Can I get a sound check here? Am I okay? Doing all right? Okay, good deal. You know, it's really good to be in this role today. Earlier in my life, I was actually an ordained lay minister, and I gave sermons regularly in that particular denomination. Then, through a spiritual search, which is a whole other message, I found the UU faith. Now, one of the differences between being in the community of Christ and the UU church is that in the community of Christ, I participated musically as well as from the pulpit, but being in the UU church, it was basically music only. And what a wonderful ride that was. But about a year ago, I changed course. I bowed out of that role of music director. That's freed me up to do what I'm doing today. And it's been quite a journey. Each time I try to prepare and create a message, you know, the faith backdrop is so different, and the possible topics seem almost endless. Each time I work on a message in this new arena, I'm learning something new. Now, before I continue today, I want to mention something. I gave a version of this message at the gathering at Northern Hills back in April. Now, one of the practices they have at the gathering is they have what's called a talk-back portion of the service. And that's after the message is given, where people can give commentary and ask questions and things like that. On this particular day, I received some interesting comments and one suggestion. A wise member of that congregation, Ann McCracken, pointed out that this theme, "Want what you have," would not always apply to those in dire need of the necessities of life. Telling people in those circumstances to simply accept what they have would not be kind, since they already have close to nothing. That really stayed with me. So as I was preparing today's version of this message, I reached out to her. She was happy for me to mention this and her name. We do need to understand that there are those who live in extreme poverty and don't have enough. So today's message, while acknowledging that, relates more to those of us that have enough. Steph's opening reading today came from the perspective of the Native American culture, and certainly there's just so much we could unpack from that and learn. In fact, I would say that I've learned a lot from the Native American culture from talking to my two sisters who worked as teachers in schools on a Navajo reservation in Arizona. And also from my readings about the Native Americans, their philosophy and the relationship to things like possession and ownership is much more highly evolved. Now, the words from Steph's reading today, "The honorable harvest," support today's theme, "Want what you have." But there's one phrase from there I just want to talk briefly about. Never take the first, never take the last, take only what you need. You know, there's only so much space in our lives. Physical space, mental space, spiritual space. There is truly nothing that we really have. We could even question if we have anything at all. At most, it's a temporary ownership. Our lives are so brief. That which is around us, possessions, property, relationships, ideas, attributes, gifts, talents, they're just really on loan to us. And that for a very small period of time. Then they are passed on as we complete our lives. Remember that bumper sticker? Live simply so others may simply live. Want what you have is a phrase that resonates with me and supports the intent of that 7-word slogan, live simply so others may simply live. Today's theme, want what you have, is actually a twist on a phrase, and you've probably heard it, have what you want, which has another connotation. If you see something you want, go and get it. Achieve, perform, be successful, grab all you can. Remember that slogan? He who dies with the most toys wins. That aligns with have what you want. I remember seeing that slogan usually as a bumper sticker years ago, and I thought, boy, there must be a lot of humans out there who see the acquisition of wealth and material possessions and status as a game to see who can get the most. Now, one of the several reasons this topic resonated with me is that I've at times longed for something someone else has. And I'm not talking just about possessions. It includes other attributes. And here's one personal example. I grew up with a close friend, Kevin. He's the guy on the left. Kevin was outgoing, popular, charismatic, articulate, wise, and exceptionally talented. This picture was captured 50 years ago at a church youth event. I'm on the right. I guess you figured that out. A mutual friend is in the middle. Kevin was 17 and I was 16. Now, Kevin was musically talented. 2 years after this picture was taken, we would go to college together, majoring in music education at Eastern Kentucky University. He was particularly gifted in music composition. He would write many songs and perform them, and people were just amazed. He was an extrovert that people were drawn to naturally. While we were close, at times I envied him. I was also talented, but not to his extent, at least not in my mind. Often, instead of being thankful for the talents and attributes I did have, I would wish I had more talent, more popularity, more abilities like he had. When I think back now, I ask myself, why did I feel that way? I had my own gifts, my own abilities, my own contributions. I don't know. Today, I keep tabs on Kevin on Facebook, and as you can imagine, he has a really large following. I'm always thrilled to see what he's doing and what he's doing with his life. There's no more envy. There's no more wishing I were like him. Just happiness that he is and I am. We've both led very interesting lives. In short, I'm more in alignment, at least in this instance, with the thinking, want what I have, not want what they have. Now, part of the issue underpinning this desire for more, whatever this more may be, is the complexity of our world. There's so much communicated to us each day. We're introduced to so many ideas and experiences and so much stuff. These seeds are planted in our minds, and it can be overwhelming. The modern day individual receives exponentially more information daily than humans did in centuries and decades past. According to Humology.com, scientists have measured the amount of data that enters the brain and found that the average person today processes as much as 74 gigabytes of information a day, which is as much as watching 16 movies. Now, even in my short lifetime, I can compare the 1960s and 70s to the 2020s, and I'm astounded at the differences. In the 60s and 70s, phones were in one place and they were hooked to the wall. And in my home, there was only one rotary dial phone. And when it rang, we actually answered it. No answering machines, no voicemails, no caller ID. And if we didn't answer it, we didn't know who called and what we might have missed. And we had a typewriter if we wanted to write a paper or write a letter. No word processing, no texting. I can remember our television with 3 or 4 channels, black and white, which stopped transmitting shows around midnight or 1 a.m. Yes, television broadcasting actually closed for the night. I can remember my first car, a 3-speed 62 Galaxy, Ford Galaxy. It drove like a tank. It didn't even have a radio. And the only thing on our minds back then regarding computation was one of those old calculators. Computers was really futuristic. At times I say to Steph, and she gets tired of this, I miss the typewriter days. She rolls her eyes and she says, I really don't. But what I'm saying is I miss a simpler time. Isn't it amazing that our society has, as we've advanced, we've gotten so much more complex? All this technology was supposed to make life better, but in some ways it hasn't. I guess in some ways it has. But we must acknowledge things have just continued to become more and more complex. Today we have multiple televisions that can stream an almost endless amount of entertainment at any time. We each have our own phone, which does so much more than just receive and make calls. Today we have desktop computers, laptop computers, mobile devices, tablets, and more. Our automobiles have so much technology that it's like riding in a spaceship compared to 50 years ago. Now, I could go on and on about this, but I do have one last comment. Not only can I remember my simpler days, I can remember older people back then during my youth and talk about how much simpler things were for them. These were people who in the 1970s were in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they were astonished at the advancements at that time. We had landed on the moon in 1969, for Pete's sake. In fact, it was yesterday, 55 years ago. How could we advance any more than that? They would anguish over the influence of television, and they would hearken back to the days of radio and even before that. These more mature folks of my youth felt that the world was totally transformed, and they were not always excited about it. I wish I could go back in time and tell them, you haven't seen anything yet. Now, in my brief story of Kevin and our earlier friendship and the envy that went along with that, I was demonstrating that we have this natural tendency to want something we either don't have or we perceive that we don't have, which is only obviously exasperated by our information-saturated society. But I believe wanting more has an organic, natural basis. We have evolved from primitive humans who were scraping and clawing to survive. When they had an opportunity to get more food, for example, they must have taken full advantage of that. It was survival instinct. From the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History's website, I found some interesting information on how primitive humans survived. They used handmade tools and they hunted large game, and they even used the skin of those animals that they killed to store the food that they had acquired. There was much risk involved, but they had to survive. And if they weren't sure when the next supply of food would come, they had to be opportunistic, I would think. It's reasonable to assume that unless we are aware of it and able to counteract those natural impulses, a similar impulse is still here today. There are some examples of this, and I'll just give two briefly here. One example is how we deal with wealth. It's not unusual for people of means to do what they can to increase their wealth. Despite the fact that they have more than enough, they'll still seek to get more. This is more or less normal like being a good steward of your resources. But consider the greed of the uber wealthy. That's a different story. The wealth gap continues to grow between the poor and the middle class and the uber wealthy, not to mention the racial minorities as opposed to the dominant white class. This is perhaps an extreme case of our natural tendency to acquire more, even though we clearly have enough. Another example is status. A desire for more or better status could be as simple as a worker trying to move up in a company, or even a sibling trying to gain favor with their parents. Or it could be adults making sure their children go to the highest rated schools in order to give them the best advantage. Even though they clearly have all the recognition and advantage they need, there's this natural instinct to gain more recognition, more status, more privilege. But I contend that it's natural. What we often do today is an extension of that basic instinct for survival. It may not be a need, but a want, but our brain may see it or feel it as a need. So I'd like to briefly review the key differences between needs and wants as posted by keydifferences.com. And I'm not going to read everything here, but on the left side of the screen are the needs. The needs are basic requirements for survival, something that one must have. They remain fixed, they don't compete or vary in intensity, and they can't be postponed. Wants, on the right side up there, are something like we'd like to have, but not essential for survival. Wants are competitive, and they can be postponed. Now, for me, seeing this description between the differences of wants and needs is helpful. If we look around us, many of us can see that we already have so much. When we do this, we can be grateful for what we do have, whether we are talking about material possessions, talents, traits, friendships, accomplishments, and so on. And it's at that aha moment we can understand the concept, want what you have. The blurb for this message included a quote from Oprah Winfrey: "Be thankful for what you have, you'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you'll never have enough." I like this statement because it implies a spiritual practice of taking stock of what you have and being grateful for it. And I like it because it doesn't say you shouldn't have anything else. It just says be thankful for what you do have and you'll end up having more. And I think in this particular case, at least in my mind, it implies a lot more than material possessions, but more like contentment in your life. And we all know Henry David Thoreau. In his book, Walden, he states, "The four necessities of life are food, shelter, clothing, and fuel." Boom, drop the mic. But keep in mind that this statement, though very profound, is about the physical necessities of life. This could be expanded to include things like love and acceptance, which is a nod to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The first two tiers relate to the physical. You get to the third tier, love and belonging, relates to emotional needs. So how do we live more simply? I'm just going to tell you a story of a monk named Nick, now living in Thailand. He used to live in the United States. This is an example of a person who I believe is truly living a simple life. Nick used to be like many of us. He lived a normal life, acquiring possessions and experiences like everybody else. He shares how having less has actually brought him peace. Nick points out that in the lay life in the capitalistic world, it emphasizes getting more, earning more, obtaining credentials, college degrees, certifications, having more money, a bigger house, fancy cars, extravagant vacations. But in the monk life, they train their minds toward the opposite, minimalism. He mentions how each monk receives a small blue box where they put all of their possessions. And they live in a tent at the preliminary stages of training. They eat out of one bowl. Their focus is actually on getting rid of things, and that having less material things equals less responsibility. So he advocates for this minimalist approach, even for us lay people. Now, Nick gives two simple and intriguing examples of this. One is our hair. You must do so much to take care of your hair. It comes with maintenance. Shampoo, conditioner, haircut style, barber selection, latest trends. So you can see the monks shaved their heads to remove this complication. And here's another example, clothing. He talks about how he used to wear many shoes and many clothes. He would worry about which style and which clothes to wear with which shoes. And then he'd worry about what jackets or coats to wear with his ensemble. Then he compares this with his current situation where his whole wardrobe, 2 robes. This is all he wears. Clothing complications, gone. One of the things I liked about his presentation, though, is he wasn't judging our lifestyle. He's actually been there. He suggests you can just have less and find more peace of mind as a result. He has few possessions. Because he has less, the number of problems he has, according to him, is less. Having less can allow more time for inner reflection and personal growth. It's okay that we own things. We just understand that owning brings weight and responsibility. So choose carefully. To recap what I've mentioned, yes, it's a complex world, and we are bombarded daily with much information. We are genetically coded to gather more for our own survival. With so much more out there for many of us to have, experience, and do, it's hard to stop desperately trying to find contentment and happiness by acquiring more. We are adding to our needs with wants, and we may subconsciously see those wants as actual needs. But we can use our evolved intellect to consciously simplify by realizing how much we do have and not necessarily, at least not in every case, opt to acquire more. While I have a lot of work to do on this, I can tell you that more and more when I'm in the store or shopping online for something or just generally thinking about possessions and experiences, I honestly find myself not wanting it, except maybe for a specific thing, for a specific purpose. If anything, I continue to be ready to unload. Steph and I have done some things. We've reduced the number of our possessions. Sorry. We've downsized our living space. We've even moved to being a one-car family. And we've tried to simplify our day-to-day life. But we could still do more. I have to say, like Marie Kondo might advise, some of the stuff in our life doesn't bring joy. Some of it is necessary, yes. Some of it does bring joy, of course. So Steph and I continue to talk about this and work through it. In fact, we've had discussions as we prepared this service, first back in April and now, and we find that trying to live simpler is not always simple. The ebb and flow of acquisition and release of our stuff is a modern-day phenomenon. We see yard sales on grand scales, where people are trying to unload their material burdens. On a different level, we see people coming up with bucket lists of things they want to do while they can. Nothing wrong with that, is it? But what about not having a bucket list? That would probably be okay. Or maybe one that says, I want to live simply day to day, seek experiences that will enhance my life and the lives of those around me. I would challenge you to think about finding your simple. What does simple mean to you? Not what I might say it is, not what the philosophers might say it is, not what Nick the monk or Marie Kondo might say, but what speaks to you. Find your simple. Embrace it. Let it evolve as you personally think and grow in the life you've created. Once you feel comfortable with that, or even as you're still trying to figure it out, choose simple. When given the option to complicate your life with something else, whatever that else is, choose simple. It may sound like I'm counseling you, but I'm counseling me. I need to do this, and I'm going to work at it harder going forward. We won't be perfect about this, but if we're aware of it, we can move forward towards simple, taking baby steps. We can't just throw everything out. We've created complicated lives. We can, however, going forward, find our simple, and we can, going forward, choose simple. Blessed be, may it be so.
Les, thank you. I believe you've given us a lot to consider. And now Les and I want to try something a little different. Just like at the gathering at Northern Hills, we want to try a talkback. We would love to hear from you. So if anybody has a comment about something you've heard, something that came to mind, I'm going to get the mic and bring it to you so that everyone else, including those on Zoom, can hear. And Zoomers, if you will type in your thoughts, and we will show them, and I'll read them. So does anybody have any comments? If you want to raise your hand.
Hand up there.
Hi, my name's Joelle Delaney. This is my father, Keith Armstrong, who used to attend here for years and years. And we are back because we had my mom's celebration of life yesterday. And we drove up in an RV that I had just purchased. But when we reached Newcastle, Indiana, we were T-boned. And I am homeless for the first time in my life. And I am so thankful for this service because my dad has just downsized after Mom passed. He went to a independent living facility, and I decided to buy my RV to live a more simple life, and we got rid of a bunch of stuff. So this is so appropriate for us to hear this message. And I'm so thankful for my family and my friends that came yesterday, and for my dad. And seeing the Maslow's chart made me think, I have all my basic needs met, and it feels like the simple life means that you're living at those upper 3 levels of Maslow's, and that's the really important part to get to. And that, yes, I don't have all my stuff that was in the RV, but my family is providing basic, place for us to sleep and food, and it's basically, we're waiting to find out if we're gonna get replacement or repair of the RV before we can go back home. And my feeling is, we're having a good time. We're still hanging out with family and friends, and it's really a good time to just enjoy that.
Thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kai Novak. I just recently moved about a week ago, and I thought that I had too much in my apartment, that it was incredibly small, if you know what an efficiency looks like. And I moved to a 1-bedroom apartment and realized that I thought maybe I need more furniture. I don't need more anything. I have more space, which is what I definitely needed, more space, but I don't need to go out and buy more things because I have enough with what I have.
Amen. There's one over here.
Hi, I'm Ellie Lamb, and I love this message. I would like to give it a green color, though. If you live simply, this world will exist in a better and more balanced way, too. The whole planet. So not wanting things, not purchasing things, are things that don't go to the landfill. So I think the green or environmental aspect of this is really important, too.
Thank you, I agree. I think there's one back there, Steph.
Hi, I'm Emily Sloan. My partner, who I live with, has not been sleeping very well lately, but last night we spent the last part of our evening not watching TV, not doing anything major, just relaxing and having a nice conversation and thinking about the blessings in our lives, honestly. And he slept really well last night, and he's like, gosh, I think it's because all we did was we just sat and had a nice conversation with each other. It was a nice, simple evening and a good night of sleep.
Excellent.
I appreciated your comments on how much data we process and how fulfilling and promising I've found it to try to simplify and declutter our minds. That's sometimes the hardest. We have lots of thoughts running around that we do not need in there.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Got one, is that, you're talking about Zoomers? Oh, okay. She was turning on the camera with her remote, okay.
Hi, Kay Inskeep. I moved a lot when I was young, and we had big houses and lots and lots and lots of stuff. And I have brought myself through that process since about the age of 24. I've lived as if I'm going to move again. Now, I've been in the same place for 33 years, but I still have that attitude. And so there's a Goodwill basket in the house, and anybody who doesn't need something, that's where it goes, and they know it. And it'll go to whatever charity or thrift store is in need.
Thank you all for your comments and your thoughts.
Is there anybody on Zoom? No, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you stay up here.
Okay.
Light candles.
All right.
All right, well, we really appreciate you sharing your thoughts. It means a lot. You know, there are two sayings that I've heard. One is, life is work, and the other is, many hands make light work. By our being in community, we can help simplify life and make it feel lighter. One of the ways we do that here at Heritage is by sharing our joys, our sorrows, and our dreams with the people who surround us and love us and who we love. If you have a joy or sorrow here in the sanctuary, please line up along the outer aisles. And when it is your turn, please take the mic, give us your name before briefly sharing your joy or sorrow. And the chat is now open on Zoom for any joys or sorrows to be typed, and I'll read them after the ones here in the sanctuary have been shared. Les will light a candle on the altar for each joy or sorrow. And please remember, you can always request that a candle be lit for you in silence. And we also have our birthday jar for any anniversary wishes. So now, are there any joys and sorrows among us? And now we light one final candle for the joys and sorrows that are held silently in our hearts. So now if you'll join me as we sing our closing hymn, please stand as you are willing and able for number 128, For All That Is Our Life. a circle around the sanctuary as we gather in community for our benediction. Join hands and repeat each line after me. All right, I think we're good.
Yeah.
May the Spirit of life
May the Spirit of life
that each of us possesses flow from one to the other.
flow from one to the other.
May it stay with us
May it stay with us
and bring us peace and harmony
and bring us peace and harmony
until we meet again.
until we meet again.
Blessed be.